The Apple and the Worm. Once upon a time, there was an apple. Not just any apple. This apple was the picture of perfection. Its skin was a vibrant, glossy red, smooth to the touch, almost glowing in the sunlight. Every curve was symmetrical, every dimple non-existent. It hung proudly on its branch, swaying gently in the breeze, basking in its own radiance. "Oh, how wonderful I am," the apple thought, grinning in the silence of the orchard. "No fruit in this tree, no fruit in the whole orchard, is as perfect as me. I am the epitome of beauty. Surely all who see me will be in awe." Days passed, and the apple swelled with pride. Every time the wind would ruffle the leaves of the tree, it would stand a little taller, a little straighter, as if showing off. It imagined how many birds would stop by to admire its gleam, how many animals would envy its shine. Nothing could blemish its flawless skin. But one morning, as the apple basked in the golden sunlight, it felt something. Something strange. A small, almost imperceptible movement inside. It froze, its polished exterior beginning to tremble ever so slightly. "Probably just the wind," it whispered to itself, trying to ignore the unsettling sensation. But then, the movement came again, more pronounced this time. The apple felt a tiny poke beneath its skin, followed by a subtle ripple. Panic started to creep in, its perfect form now betraying a sense of unease. And then, to the apple's horror, a small, wriggling worm emerged from a tiny hole, inching its way out into the open air. For a moment, everything stood still. The apple's perfect world, its beauty, its pride, shattered in an instant. The worm wriggled its way further, making itself visible, its slimy body twisting and turning in the sunlight, a stark contrast to the apple's once pristine surface. The apple recoiled. "No, this can't be happening," it cried inwardly. "I was perfect. How could something like this happen to me?" The worm, unfazed by the apple's distress, continued its journey, unaware of the turmoil it had caused. It was simply doing what worms do, surviving, eating, living. But to the apple, it was a sign of failure, a mark of imperfection that could never be undone. The wind blew again, and for the first time, the apple felt heavy. It wasn't just the weight of the worm inside. It was the weight of the realization that nothing, no matter how perfect it seemed, could ever escape the pull of time. The apple was no longer the flawless symbol it once was. The worm had changed everything. But as the apple sat there, growing more and more disheartened, something else began to stir within. It wasn't the beauty it had once celebrated, nor the flawlessness it had clung to with all its might. It was something else, a deeper, more enduring truth. The worm, while it had marred the surface, hadn't stolen the apple's worth. In that moment, the apple understood something profound. It wasn't the absence of flaws that made it valuable. It was the very fact that it had lived, had grown, and had endured. The worm wasn't a mark of disgrace, but a reminder of the life within. As the apple hung there, no longer trying to hide its blemish, it realized it was still worthy, still beautiful, not despite the worm, but with it. The worm continued its journey, and the apple, though different now, was at peace. It had discovered that even imperfections could carry meaning. And sometimes those imperfections made something even more extraordinary. And so the apple hung there, no longer boasting of its outer beauty, but embracing the quiet strength of simply being. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep spreading the joy of storytelling. And remember, true beauty comes from within.